be helpful. Anybody on who has the book or the digital copy and is registered, has been like on the website? Anyone? I know there's like half a dozen people at least who have. I'm not hearing anyone. Well, I think what you do, correct me if I'm wrong, is you buy the book. If you have a hard copy of the book, like I do, then on the first page, you have a thing that you scratch off the foil and you get your code that way. If you have the digital resources, then I assume you get your code when you buy it and they will tell you where to put it in. I think that, let me screen share to our website, or to our Moodle rather. Here's our Moodle. So here's where you purchase the book. Oh, great, thanks. I see Ethan turned on the record. Good work. I was just remembering that. And we were going to say, well, I actually haven't even started yet. I'm just talking. We've sort of started, and a bunch of people are here, but I'm answering the questions about the book. This is the first thing. So you can buy the book here. Also, please, if you're having any kinds of issues with the book, you can contact the representative for the company, which is Norton, which is a big company. Her name is Lana Weber. Can be contacted there, and she will be happy to help you, including if there are people who don't have the book yet but need to get access, because we have a quiz, for one thing, happening beginning tomorrow, then she will get you temporary access to the website. So if you've got some issue and you can't get the book yet or haven't, they will, I think, give you a 2-week access. So no excuses then for the quiz. So anyway, if you have questions, ask her. And then I think once you have your code, you just click on the course ebook link, and that will give you the place to put in your code, and then you will be registered. And then you can access the close reading workshops and the pause and practice, which are the bonus exercises. Okay. I am going to, let me see, Doc, here's what I'm doing. Okay, I'm asking now, so I'm encouraging people to put on some cameras, and that would be nice. I have 2, thank you, Rachel and Madeline. So I can actually see some people while I'm talking. Okay. We're ready to start officially. For our official start, I will repeat again that the team will open, the class will open 10 minutes beforehand by the tech facilitator, Ethan. And if you have any technical questions, you can jump in and ask him those questions, and I'll come in a few minutes early for questions, and we'll hang out at the end as well. If you have questions. I think most of the questions so far are regarding the textbook, and I've just gone over that again. Somebody, oh, there we go. So are there any questions about the textbook or about anything about the course? And feel free to put things in the chat as well, and I can respond that way. Okay, well then, reminder that our first quiz is happening next class, which means it's open 24 hours beforehand. So the quiz will be open. You will find it here, quiz number 1. And it will tell you, there it is, it's opened Thursday, January 14th at 2:30 until Friday, January 15th at 2:30. So that is the regular schedule for the quizzes. You have 24 hours before class. The quiz is on, and let me move over here. The quiz is on the material that we've covered so far. So that is the syllabus. It's also, it's also being aware of what's happened in class. These quizzes, the point of the quizzes is just to see that you are keeping up. Basically, I'm not trying to trick you. I'm not trying to make them really difficult. I'm really trying to make them so that if you've done all the work and you're organized, you should get 9 or 10 out of 10 on the quizzes. They're open book, so you have your materials with you. And so it will cover the readings. And note that I sent out an announcement last night because I added some things to the vocabulary list for the readings, and that might, so it's the weekly calendar here. Let me open that so I can show you. Let's put that just into downloads. I just want that in downloads. And if I do that again, I may end up doing that again. Notice that I've added under January 13th because we have, I hadn't added all the things under sound, and there's a bunch of vocabulary words under sound. You do not need to memorize these because this is an open book test. You do need to know, and there's less than 10 pages. There's like 8 pages on this material, but there are a lot of definitions in it. So, but you can use your book. So you just need to know where it is in the book, and you should be able to find those easily. So those definitions are the kind of thing that you could be quizzed on. So the quiz will cover these readings then from 7:30 to 7:45, from 7:46 to etc. The readings for the 2 days. Oh, up to, sorry, and including the readings for January 15th. So you are responsible for that for the quiz as well. And it will be multiple choice questions. Yeah, Ethan, does someone have a question?
Yeah, Abigail posted in chat, where will we be able to find the PowerPoint slides you post for the lectures?
I will post that. It hasn't been posted yet, but I'll post it under this week. So I will put it probably right here under how to read a poem. You'll find it right there after this class. So that's where it will be. And it's just one, yeah, the PowerPoint, that will be the PowerPoint that I used last class and this class. Okay, so to say again, then you are responsible for all the material up to the quiz date, up to and including the quiz date. The reading for Friday is very minimal. You'll see it's 2 pages, 3 pages. It's about 4 pages of reading. So it's not a lot of reading. It's just some poems, but read them because you could be tested on those. And so notice for the next quiz, you would be responsible for the material, including January 2nd. So here I have, let's move over to my PowerPoint. I've given you a sample. Here's the kind of question that you could find. This is a kind of question that just, again, emphasizes, did you read the material? So which poem uses a metaphor comparing people to cutlery? Divorce, poem, the ruined maid, or out, out? Where's the chat? You can put your answer in the chat if you know it. Let's see how many quick answers we get. Divorce, yes, A, okay, good. So that's exactly the kind of, so basically it's gonna be that kind of question, like, so did you read the poems? Do you have a basic idea? I'm not gonna ask you like a complicated question about an individual poem. I'm gonna just ask you a question basically about the content, right? Like, which poem compares people to cutlery? So that kind, and then there will be things like with definitions. So there could be a phrase and it might say, is this an example of alliteration or assonance or a metaphor? And one other thing, I'm just making this up off the top of my head, obviously, but it will be that kind of thing. So you will need to know the definitions basically and the material that we've read. Okay, any questions about the quiz. All right, then let's go back.
Jennifer asks if the quiz will be timed.
Yes, it is. So there will be, I haven't completed it yet, but typically what I do is 10 questions, 15 minutes. So it is definitely timed. That should give you plenty of time. Like a lot of people will finish this in, between 5 and 7 minutes. Not a lot of people need 15 minutes, but I will give you up to that amount of time. And so that gives you enough time to definitely check some things, as long as you know where to check, right? It gives you the time to go back and check things, so that you should not be, when you open it, don't be stressed. You'll have adequate time for sure to finish it with 15 minutes. If you haven't done the reading, then, that's another story. You're not going to find the answers likely in that time if you haven't done the reading, but if you have, you should have plenty of time to find them again. Okay. So we ended, I think, here. We spent a lot of time talking generally about poetry and what is poetry, and you can download that lecture. Also, if you missed it, I should say that. I should go back to, we went to, where am I going to find this now? Here it is. If you go to your teams and, but where's the last lecture? Shoot, why am I not seeing it now?
I think it would be under the 42 replies. It's in the comment section for this meeting. So if you scroll down to the very bottom.
The very bottom.
Yeah, in purple letters where it says 42 replies from you and others.
I'm not seeing it.
Oh, your cursor was just over it. It's sort of in the right there. Yep.
Okay. I click on this.
Sorry, not that, but the letters below it.
Okay. Let me go back to. So what's okay? Where do they go, Ethan, to find the recordings?
Yeah, it's actually in the meeting chat.
Right. So how do we see the chat?
Just above that last post where it's Jennifer asking, "Will the quiz be timed?" Yeah. Just above that, there's those purple letters. Not that.
Okay. Oh, we got to click. I got to click that.
Yeah, and
there
that
we
will
go.
expand.
Okay.
And there's that video.
All right.
And people can download that video and view it at their leisure if they need to rewatch or if they somehow missed a class.
Right. Okay, so that I think is really important information. And notice that that was collapsed. And if you're slow like me, you got to find where you have to uncollapse it, because you don't see it right away, which I think is actually kind of annoying. But anyway, go to that meeting, open it, and then you'll see the recording, and then you can download the recording to your computer. You can save it however you want. Okay. Let me close that and go back here. So we ended talking about what is a poem, and we spent a lot of time talking about that, and that's why I was thinking about the film. If you wanted to go back and watch that, you can. So let's move forward from that. I have posted also on Moodle a PowerPoint on how to read a poem. I'll talk this through quickly now, and there's another, you can listen to it again there if you want. This is some sort of general instructions for what you do. First of all, a poem is very different from a newspaper or a novel. It requires slower reading, and it requires, because poetry is so, well, you read the chapter on sound today, and I spent a lot of time, probably last class, talking about how a poem is closer to a piece of music or a painting than it is to a novel or a newspaper article. One of the things, because it's like a piece of music, you need to hear it. So what you want to do, first of all, with the poem is read it aloud to yourself, or read it aloud in your room if you're alone. If you're not alone, read it in your head aloud so that you're saying each of the words. On that first reading, you really do not have to worry about the meaning at all. It doesn't matter what it means. Remember that quote from T.S. Eliot that we saw at the beginning, that true poetry can communicate before it is understood. That's what you want to be getting in your first reading. What is this poem saying that your logical mind might not get, but that some other part of your mind might get? So don't worry about the meaning on your first read, for sure. Then the second time that you're reading, or the third time that you're reading, if you're writing about the poem or working on a workshop about the poem, you're going to read much more closely. And this is the point where you're going to use a dictionary. For those of you who did the Emily Dickinson paraphrase, you undoubtedly needed to use a dictionary because nobody knew what the word diadem meant, I'm guessing. But a dictionary is going to be really valuable, and it's why I link to on Moodle here up at the top. This is one of the links that I have, the Oxford English Dictionary via the CBU library. So that is like the 10 or 20 volumes. If it was, it would take up a whole shelf. It would take up, like, I don't know, 20 or 40 feet of shelving space, because it gives you a lot of details about words, including their origins, etc. When we're looking closely at a poem, that stuff is really useful. And it's useful to find out about language. So on your second time, then you're reading more closely, and that's when you're reacting at first. And reaction doesn't have to be analytical. It can be like, what impressions does this poem create for you? What strikes you about it? Are there particular moments or particular lines that seem important, where something seems to be happening? What's happening? What's unusual about the poem? What places don't you understand? Any of those kind of reaction questions. The last stage of reading a poem, which frankly, you don't have to do for all the poems that you're reading. Partly, we're reading a fairly wide range of poems, and not all of them, like, you would not have time to read all of them closely and analyze them. That's fine. You're gonna spend some time, ideally, like, I think it would be ideal is if in each section of homework, each thing that you were reading, you spent extra time on one poem that you found interesting, or one poem that I highlighted and asked people, to analyze. So for example, I did that with the Dickinson poem last time because I forgot that I told you to do it for homework. So I didn't make it into an actual homework assignment because I didn't want to spring it on people at the last minute. But normally I might make that into a homework assignment, and that would have been 15 minutes. You looked very closely at Monologue to an Onion by doing the paraphrase. And so what I'm saying is, like, if you spend time looking at one poem for each reading very closely, you'd be doing really good work. And so that's the last part of the process, is we're asking what does this poem mean? What is it doing? How can I start analyzing, or rather organizing, my ideas, my thoughts and observations about the poem? And what I'm going to do today is give you some strategies for doing that. We've already come up with some strategies, and you've read about some strategies as well, right? That was the textbook section for 747 to 753 goes through a whole process of close reading of Aphra Behn's poem on her loving two equally, right? And it takes you through a lot of steps. That process can be done in a lot of different ways. There's all kinds of analytical activities, brainstorming activities that you can use to analyze a poem. So this gives you one stage, and a big part of what they're doing was the exercise that I asked people to do, which is to paraphrase. And for those of you who haven't noted it, do note that there is a handout on paraphrasing in the resources and handouts section of D2L. I will point that out again. Course resources and handouts, how to paraphrase a poem. I'll be putting in more today. Actually, I thought that I already did on evidence lists when we talk about those today. So you'll find all of those kind of resources there. So the textbook goes through that stage of paraphrasing. Well, it suggests something actually even before paraphrasing, which is to think about your expectations with the poem. What do you expect when you see a poem called Monologue for an Onion? Emily Dickinson's poems actually don't have titles. The textbook gives, often the editors of books will give it a title by using the first line. But anyway, Monologue for an Onion, well, what do we expect? Quite possibly a speaking onion, which is what we get. I guess that's what I would expect, but maybe something else. Asking ourselves that question is a good place to begin. Then if we want to look at something closely, paraphrasing is one of the most powerful ways of doing it. And so the people who did it for Monologue for an Onion or with the Dickinson poem have seen what you can get from that. And so some of the details on paraphrasing that the textbook emphasizes more is what you're doing is translating. Remember, my handout on paraphrase tells you what you're doing is it's a line, it's not a summary, it's a line by line translation into your own words, into modern English in your own words. One thing to keep in mind, and some of the people who did Monologue for an Onion, I commented on this, is translate as much as possible. Try to turn as much of it as possible into your own words. Also, when paraphrasing, go sentence by sentence rather than line by line, because it can get confusing if you just try to paraphrase a single line. So instead, read the line and see if it continues to the next line and paraphrase by sentences. Sometimes you'll need to reorder the sentences or the parts of the sentences into a logical order. Sometimes you'll need to replace pronouns with their antecedents. So sometimes it's not clear when he, she, or they is used, who it refers to. So you're doing all those things when you do a paraphrase. And so that's our first tool. You'll be asked to do some more of those. Your first paper is going to ask for a paraphrase as well. It's a really good way to work with the poem and kind of see what a poem is doing. From there, the textbook suggests, well, we could ask some questions like who, what, where, when, what happens. And then finally, the other big question that we start to ask when we're analyzing a poem is also the how question. That's number 7 on page 752 in the text. And the how is about poetic techniques. This is what each of the chapters is about, really. How does the poem use sound, for example, to convey its meaning? How does it use figures of speech, similes and metaphors? How does it use diction? How does the word choice convey its meaning, etc.? So that's another big part of doing a close reading, is asking not only the what's happening, what's the poem about, but also the how. How does it use language in a particular poetic way, which is why we go back to the fact about poetry, that poetry is a different kind of use of language. How does it use language to create its specific meanings? And then finally, what does it all mean? Why does it matter? We could look at, let's go, we'll take a step back to Monologue for an Onion. And I hope that I have the poem here. And oh, good. I do have that's my evidence list. Don't I have I have my paraphrase somewhere. All right, let's read this, and then I can close that. Let's see if I can find my paraphrase, but I haven't yet. Okay, I did a paraphrase of Monologue for an Onion, which I posted on Moodle. So maybe some of you have read it already. But let's read the poem. I don't mean to make you cry. I mean nothing. But this has not kept you from peeling away my body layer by layer, the tears clouding your eyes as the table fills with husks, cut flesh, all the debris of pursuit. Poor deluded human, you seek my heart. Hunt all you want. Beneath each skin of mine lies another skin. I am pure onion, pure union of outside and in, surface and secret core. Look at you, chopping and weeping, idiot. Is this the way you go through life, your mind a stopless knife driven by your fantasy of truth, of lasting union, slashing away skin after skin of things, ruin and tears your only signs of progress? Enough is enough. You must not grieve that the world is glimpsed through veils. How else can it be seen? How will you rip away the veil of the eye, the veil that you are, you who want to grasp the heart of things, hungry to know where meaning lies? Taste what you hold in your hands. Onion juice, yellow peels, my stinging shreds. You are the one who are in pieces. Whatever you meant to love, in meaning to, you changed yourself. You are not who you are, your soul cut moment to moment by a blade of fresh desire, the ground sown with abandoned skins, and at your innermost circle, what? A core that is not one. Poor human, you are divided at the heart, lost in its maze of chambers, blood and love, a heart that will one day beat you to death. All right, so if we were working through this poem, so that, you know, I'll go back to my experience of this poem, or maybe your experience of this poem. Well, let me ask you. I'm hoping that those people who did paraphrase it, or people who have read it closely, what was your experience of this poem? Here, I'm gonna stop that so I can see people. What was your experience in terms of, like, do you remember when you first read it? Or how that experience changed as you were paraphrasing it? I'm not asking people to tell me what it means or to give me your analysis, but I'm very curious about your actual experience of working on this poem. When you read it the first time, was it like, what the hell is this? Or were you like, oh, wow, that's interesting? Or I don't know what else your reaction might have been. Anyone want to share their, this is a low stakes, easy question, I think. I'm not asking you to analyze anything. I'm just saying, what was your response when you read it? Or also, if you're here and you haven't read it before and you just heard it for the first time, what was your response in just hearing it? Okay, so Abigail, thank you. Didn't understand it at all at first. And further, Abigail, I guess I also want to know, what was your experience of not understanding it? Like, is that frustration, anger, interest? I wanna understand it, or annoyance? Abigail, you can unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, so when I was reading it at first, I didn't understand it at all, and I was like, okay, this is like an onion talking, like I'm not gonna get this at all. But once I started paraphrasing, then I realized, like, I kind of put it in like the whoever wrote the poem was like speaking like it, and I kind of like related to it, like imagining if it was like me talking, and I kind of understood it once I put it in more of like a person speaking and not thinking about it being an onion. And
right.
I was like, okay, they're using it as like an onion talking, but really, like if we put this as in like a human saying it, then you kind of understand, and it's like, oh, okay, like this person's kind of like having trouble with like their beliefs, and it's kind of like all about them.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So how did your feeling about it change when you was that a positive feeling? But like, did you feel like afterwards, oh yeah, now I sort of get it?
Yeah, I felt much better after paraphrasing it. Like reading it the first time, I was like, okay, don't understand this. But after paraphrasing it, I was like, okay, I understand what this poem meant, and I liked it. Like I was actually interested in it after I understood it more.
Right. Cool.
So it
All
made
right.
me happier understanding it more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I will say, this is a hard poem. Like this, I said that when I gave it to you guys, like this is not an easy place to start, but there was a reason for me starting here, which I'll say more about in a minute. But okay, Morgan has a comment. Wait, reminded me of the comparison from Shrek being an onion and how everyone has many layers. Okay, I don't know that Shrek thing. I enjoyed seeing it. Yeah, okay, cool. What is the Shrek reference? Morgan? Do you have a microphone? I don't know, maybe Morgan cannot speak. Okay, well, yeah, I think that's, ultimately, and that's what Abigail is saying as well. Through paraphrasing, okay, seems not to work, yeah. Through paraphrasing, she started to get it and started to think of it as a human being. So, well, okay, I think we can jump ahead to the big question of like, why, what does it mean? I understood the first half on my read through, but the second was a bit more complex, right? After having a closer, slower approach, it made a lot more sense. Cool. Yeah. Paraphrasing is really good for that. So let's talk about it a little. I mean, what did Abigail, do you want to say something? I am putting you on the spot a bit, but if it is a person, what is this person saying? Any thoughts on that?
I'm just gonna pull it up in front of me. I don't have the poem.
Am I not? Oh, sorry. I thought I was sharing. I'm not sharing. Okay, let me go back to yeah, you know what, remind me in the chat, or Ethan, you can also, if I'm not sharing and I think